The 22nd of June marks the national celebration of Windrush. In 1948, a ship arrived in Tilbury Docks in Essex, carrying the first Caribbean migrants to the UK to help rebuild Britain after the Second World War. The ship was carrying more than 1,000 passengers. 802 of these passengers were from somewhere in the Caribbean. On this day, we recognise and thank all those who arrived to England and their descendants for their enormous contributions they have made to Britain during its recovery from the war and the work that they've continued to do ever since.
Paris sees the arrival of more than 400 happy Jamaicans. They've come to seek work in Britain and are ready and willing to do any kind of job that will help the motherland along the road to prosperity. They're all full of hope for the future, so let's make them very welcome as they begin their new life over here.
I will now read the story of Coming to England, a tale by Floella Benjamin and Diane Ewen. This is a true story about Floella Benjamin, who was born in the Caribbean island of Trinidad in 1949 and came to England in 1960 as part of the Windrush generation. My name is Floella. I lived in the beautiful island of Trinidad with my mommy and daddy and my brothers and sisters. One day at breakfast, daddy saw an advert in the newspaper. "We've been invited to go to England," he said. Daddy had always wanted to be a jazz musician in England, so he packed his saxophone and his suitcase and set off. We didn't want daddy to leave Trinidad, but the house still felt happy with my two sisters, 3 brothers, and mommy and me. Every day at school before lessons started, all the children sang God Save the Queen. We learnt that Trinidad was part of the British Empire. We learnt about England far away on the other side of the world. We imagined Daddy there, playing his saxophone, wearing a coat to keep him warm. I dreamt of meeting the Queen. Each day we went to the market to buy mangoes, breadfruit and sweet potatoes. The months went past. In the hot season we had to move very slowly. Then, when the wet season came, we could dance outside under the huge warm raindrops. A year after Daddy left, Mommy packed her bags and went to join him in England. She took my littlest sister, Cynthia, and brother, Junior, with her. Sandra and I had to stay behind with our wicked auntie and wait for Mommy's letter. One day, a letter arrived from Mommy. It said we were finally going to England. We jumped for joy. Even better, our brothers Lester and Ellington were coming as well. Now it was our turn to pack. We didn't have any warm clothes, but we packed our prettiest dresses. It took 15 days to sail to England. We saw flying fish and seagulls. The ship was like a floating skyscraper, but our cabin was tiny. We got into all sorts of mischief on the boat with no parents around, and we even helped in the kitchen. The closer we got to England, the colder it became. We thought about our lessons on British history at school. What would England be like? It will be a giant iceberg, said Lester. Don't be silly, said Sandra. It won't be that cold. On the day we arrived in Southampton, we did agree on one thing. We all put on our best clothes in case we were going to meet the Queen. But we didn't see the Queen at the docks. But Marmee was there, waving up at us. I thought she looked like an angel. She gave me the biggest hug and a blue knitted cardigan to keep me warm. "Let's go home," she said. We found ourselves in a land of fast underground trains and moving staircases. But London didn't feel very welcoming, and the people weren't very kind. We all lived in one room, so we missed our lovely big house in Trinidad. But we were a family again. Our new home might not be what we had expected, but we would work hard and life would be better. I was so excited to start a new school, but our classmates had never seen black children before, and they called us names. "They don't ask to play with me," I told Marmee. But after a while, we became friends. At first, coming to England was not as nice as I thought it would be. But little by little, we settled in, and it felt like home. I still dreamt of meeting the And one day, when I was all grown up, I did. Floella Benjamin received a special Lifetime Achievement BAFTA and an OBE. She was named Dame in 2020.
In 1948, Britain was just starting to recover from the Second World War. Towns and cities had been bombed. Thousands of homes and buildings were destroyed, and they all needed to be rebuilt. In the Caribbean, thousands of men and women had served in the British Armed Forces. After the war, some of them answered an advert to come to Britain, where there were lots of different jobs available. Other people just wanted to see England, which they'd heard so much about. They all got on a ship the Empire Windrush, which left the Caribbean to travel thousands of miles across the Atlantic Ocean. This was the first time so many Caribbean people had come to live in Britain. Many more arrived in the following years. It was on the 22nd of June 1948 that the Empire Windrush arrived at Tilbury Docks in Essex. But when its passengers got off, they found that Britain was not as friendly to them as they had hoped. It was cold and grey. And the Caribbean people soon experienced racism and discrimination. They found it hard to get proper homes to live in and to make friends with British people. Later, many of their children were bullied at school because of the colour of their skin. There were racial attacks, and years later, race riots broke out in cities across Britain. Settling into a new country was difficult, and black people had to stick together and support one another.
The purpose of this day is to encourage communities across the country to celebrate these contributions made by the Windrush generation and their descendants. We want to thank them for everything they did, from helping to rebuild Britain after the Second World War, to staying in our country and helping to make foundations. The Windrush generation laid those foundations for the Black British society that we know today. Some of their contributions towards jobs were production of steel, coal, iron and food, as well as roles in running public transport and helping to staff the National Health Service, or the NHS as we call it today. I want to thank everyone for watching this video and hope that you've had an insight into Windrush. My granddad was also a migrant from the Caribbean. He came from the island of St Kitts and travelled on a boat just like this, and set up his whole life in England. And I am so grateful that he did, because it brought me here today. I hope that you enjoyed the story, and I hope that you have learned something. Thank you.